Hello everybody, this is round 6 of the RENNSPORT Road to Launch series with the M2 CS at, as you can probably tell, Jeddah, the Jeddah Corniche circuit. It's a night race, not that there's ever really night at Jeddah because there's so many floodlights, so that shouldn't be too much of a problem for our drivers today. You may have noticed I am not the official voice of RENNSPORT. Lena, I am his co-host Tim Ireland. I will be commentating for you solo today as he is at the Sim Expo and very, very busy. So, we have a pretty packed grid for you today of, I believe, 19 drivers, which is pretty good. We are running 2 splits, so this is the upper first split, which is the upper class, terrible. The higher grade, shall we say, of drivers of the 2 splits, so we should be in for some good racing around this tight and twisty street circuit with a lot of walls, a lot of danger. Hopefully not a lot of crashes, but we'll find that out as we go on, I suppose. So we're just following Dominic Ladler through qualifying. The qualifying's only just started, so nobody's finished a lap yet. And Dominic going very wide there, so that's not going to be a valid lap for him. But we'll see how he goes for the rest of his lap. Got a couple of people still in the pits. You don't have to wait for clear air, and everyone's got their own version of the track. But we'll see. We'll see how that goes. If I sort out my overlays a little bit. There we go. So, what can we expect from the racing today? Hopefully, like I said before, not a lot of crashing. Some fantastic battling. There's a long sweeping back section of the track which is pretty quick, so that people should be able to keep in contention with a bit of slipstream, and a lot of tight and twisty corners which can be a lot of fun in the M2 CS. I'll just bring up the standings so far in the series. You can see that the guy we're watching right now, Dominic Ladler, is second, or just behind Ali Zahir. Be a little bit of a gap to Julian Secor and Enrico Breuninger. Then we have Zadibel, Emil, Soria, and others, Ruben Milop, Kurtzer, Volbrach. People I can't pronounce so well because I'm English. But there's a lot of fighting at the top of the grid for sure, and I'm sure we'll see those guys up and fighting for positions as usual. I can't concentrate on too many things at once, so you'll have to bear with me while I'm clicking things. The best commentator. This is why Lino does everything. So, after people have done the first laps, you can see Enrico Breuninger doing a 2:18. Can't see the rest of the time because it's off the leaderboard. Oh, 2:18.184. Julian Secor currently in the box, so he must have decided he's happy with his 2:18.6. Dominic Ladler after his big off-track with a 2:28. Ali Zahir still warming up on a 2:22. We've got a few 2:22s on track right now. But we'll go to Emil, who you can see had a green sector 1, so that was the fastest, a yellow sector 2, so they've made no improvement in that one. Might be able to bump up his lap time a little bit with that green sector 1. We'll see how he did on sector 3, and if he managed to make any improvement. as he comes up to the line here. It's quite a long way to the start-finish line. Green sector 3, that puts him in a 2:19.452, which is pretty good. So I'm sure we'll be happy with that. And he seems to be happy, as he seems to be pulling off the track. Only 30 seconds left of qualifying to go. Ali Zahir has managed to get up into second place with a 2:18 point near enough 4. Julian Sicko still in third. Enrico Broidinger leading the way with his 2:18.008. Made a slight improvement over his last lap. Dominic Ladler, second place in the championship right now, languishing a little bit in 7th place. And seems to have decided that's enough for him and called it a day. As the time for qualifying runs out. So our grid is Enrico Broininger, Ali Zahir, Julian Sicko, Emil, Pete Kozluk, Michael G. Or my leaderboard just reset. Dominic Ladler, Marcel Volbrack, Gerardo Brescia, Milop, Piotr Zadybal, Hans Wurstenator, Radoslav Pionkovic rounds out the 13th position on the grid. As everybody lines up for the start of the race. Gets ready for turn 1. The revs are going up. 1 light, 2 light, 3 light, 4 light, 5 light, and go. Maybe. There we go. Enrico Broidinger making his way down to the T1. He seems to have had a pretty good start. He's got a bit of a lead on top of everyone else. Makes it through cleanly. First 2, 3, 4 drivers all getting through pretty nicely there. Seems to have been a fairly clean start. We have a couple of yellow flags further back on the track, so there's a bit of a gap before the back end of the field. Radoslav Pionkovic once again managing to get himself caught up in all of that nonsense. But Enrico Broidinger getting himself a little bit of a gap there on front of Julian Sicko, and Ali Zahir stuck behind him. Then Emil Vikozluk, Dominic Ladler managed to pick up a place at the start of the race, now make that 2, and has got his way up to 5th position. Ali Zahir just trying to chase down Julian Sicko as Enrico makes the best of his clean air right now and just squeezes that gap a little bit longer. Further down the grid we have Milop looking in a bit of a battered. Sorry, that's not Milop. Let's go to Milop. I know I can use interfaces. Oh, Milop's just gone backwards. Is a bit of a broken looking M2 CS, as I was saying, is got a fair few dents on there, but he's still soldiering on, just chasing down Gerardo Brescia further down the field. Whereas at the front, Emil is trying to make his way past Julian Sicko. No, Julian Sicko has been overtaken by Ali Zahir. Emil now fighting with Dominic Ladler, who's managed to squeeze his way through. And is now starting to chase down Julian Sicko, who is trying to hold on to the back end of Ali Zahir. Enrico Broininger still a second and a half off the front after that brilliant start by him. So he's sitting pretty. Long way to go though. We still have 32 minutes of racing left. There's not been many laps. So no doubt there will be some more action at the start, at the front of the field before long. As Julian Sakura tries to keep in touch with Dominic Ladler. He's 0.7 seconds will get him a little bit of slipstream when it comes down the long straights. It's just eking out to over a second as he comes into the fast section of the track. That'll make him not get so much of a benefit from the slipstreams, but I'm sure he'll be trying. Julian Sakura, sorry, just over a second behind Ali Zahir, so he won't be getting much of a slipstream effect from Dominic Ladler, who is rapidly starting to close up the gap now. As you may well expect, the fastest lap right now currently in the hands of Enrico Breuninger, doing a 2:20.698, which is a good 2 seconds clear of anyone else's fastest lap right now, because he's not had to fight with anyone and kept it clean. But Ali Zahir has set a fastest sector 1, so we'll see if he can make any inroads into the lead. It is coming down, it's down to 1.2 seconds now. Dominic Ladler slowly closing that gap on Julian Sakura. It's within half a second now, fluctuating a little bit as they go into braking zones and accelerate, etc. But he seems to be doing a pretty good job of keeping in contact with Julian Sakura, and we probably expect to see him start to think about making a move. He'll just be trying to keep an eye on Sakura, where he's fast, where he isn't, where Dominic is making up some time, where he can make a move, really. And the fastest lap of the race has now gone to Ali Zahir with a 1:17.54. That puts him within a second of Enrico Breuninger. You can see he's starting to close the gap up pretty impressively. And Dominic Ladler still holding on to back end of Julian Sakura, but not quite in overtaking range just yet. As he gets that big draft down the fast section of the track, he's looking to make a move if he can. I believe they'll be coming up to one of the twisty sections as Ladler squeaks. Doesn't quite make it happen as they come through the S's on the back section, but then they've got another long drag coming up to the last, not quite but near enough hairpin, which is a good place to make a move before you have another long drag down the start-finish straight with a big heavy braking zone. Long fast sections with hard braking zones, pretty much the order of the day when it comes to Jeddah. So plenty of places to try and stuff it down the inside if you've got the overspeed from the straights and any drafting you've had from that. Dominic Ladler moving over, he's looking towards the inside. Can he keep it on the brakes? He looks to have made a pretty good move, but he's going to get pushed to the outside at the end of the S's. Still alongside. So maybe it looks like, yep, Julian Sakura's going to have to yield that position. That's got Ladler up to third position, currently nearly 5 seconds behind Ali Zahir, so he's got a lot of work to do to catch that up. But he might drag Julian Sakura along as well, because there wasn't a lot of speed difference. Ooh, Julian Sakura going very wide. You can just see ahead of them the battle for first, which is this one between Ali Zahir and Enrico Breuninger. Ali's pretty much got on the back end of Enrico, so he's going to be again looking for where he can start making a move. And Ali looking to the outside, trying to squeak his way through as he gets a little bit of extra overspeed, but he's really pushing to try and make a move there. He's forcing Enrico to take the tighter inside line through the hairpin, which will hopefully, for Ali Zahir, give him a bit of a better run out of it. He has managed to get a little bit closer. Dominic Ladler's taken a second... No? Yeah, taking a second out of the lead that Ali Zahir had. He's down to 4 seconds now. So he's starting to make inroads into his championship rival. But Ali really getting all over the back end of Enrico Breuninger now. Takes him a couple of corners to get back up to an overtaking position once it fails, but he's definitely trying to make a serious move on Enrico. No doubt he's watching that the relative time back to Dominic Ladler slowly decreasing, and he's wanting to get free as soon as he can. Fastest lap of the race is still with Ali Zahir, by the way. Dominic Ladler's fastest lap is actually quite a bit slower right now, but maybe it's just not managed to get a clean fast lap in. See Ali Zahir pulling up alongside, trying to get the move done. He's technically ahead as they come into the left-hander, which gives him the inside line, but then pushes him wide onto the outside line. Side by side as they come round onto the big fast section, they'll both be getting the same amount of side draft pretty much, so nobody's really got an advantage in this situation. Ali in the inside line when it comes to the next big hairpin. Hard on the brakes, you can see the front of his car diving there. Enrico got good mid-corner speed, so he might be able to make something out of it on the run out of the corner. And they're still alongside as they come up to T1. But Ali's managed to make it stick after a few corners side by siding. Dominic Ladler now only 2 seconds behind this leading pair, so he's definitely looking forward to catching up with that and having a bit of a battle after his couple of laps of being in the Enrico zone. And Ali Zahir making a clean break for it, getting 0.8 seconds gap already, which will definitely help him out and reduce the amount of slip that Breuninger's getting on him. If I remember how to do it, I can... There we go. Now swap the leaderboard to intervals rather than gaps, so that's the time between the driver above or below them. You can see Julian Sicko looking to make a move on Emil, I believe. Got a bit of damage to the front of that car. He must have had a bit of contact at some point, but it doesn't seem to be slowing him down too much as he catches up with Emil from GST. Telegraphed a move there, but Emil didn't take the bait and didn't try and cover it. He just stuck to the racing line, kept the faster line and kept his speed up. Julian Sicko making a dive into the corner there, not able to really get alongside, but that did compromise Emil's exit, so if he can get a bit of overspeed here, he might be able to try again into T1. The racing line into T1 very much on the right hand side of the track, which gives people overtaking the inside line as they dive in. It's difficult to cover it off. Emil trying his best, but it looks like Julian Sicko is through. And the extra speed he managed to carry through the corner really give him a gap there, which is going to help him keep Emil off his back for a little bit as he tries to start catching up with the people ahead of him. We'll go back to Dominic Ladler for a second. He is a second off Enrico Bräuninger, which is pretty good for him. Took that corner a little bit slow, lost a bit of time. But he's maybe compromised the corner speed for straight line speed in the fast section as the gap starts to close down a little bit. Getting Dominic into the slipstream zone. Not quite. No. Keeps dipping in and out of it, not really staying in, unfortunately for him. Further down the field, Gerardo Brescia trying his best with that very battered looking M2 to make a bit of a move on Hans Wurstenator. It's taken a radical engine cooling solution there by removing the entire front bumper and exposing as much of the radiator as possible. Running very wide there, clipping a bit, well, not wide. He ran wide from the first corner, clipped a bit of the track, but that has given him... He had gained track position before then, and Gerardo Brescia making his bit of headway forward. It's got a big gap up to Piotr Zadybal there, 22 seconds. So he's going to be a while before he sees any more track action, unless Hans can make a move back on him. Seems to be gapping him fairly successfully right now, though. We've had a few people DNFing further down the track, further down the order, should I say. Juan Pablo Leon, Andre Newman and Tamas Fischer all decided to call it a day. Ali Zaire continuing to gap Enrico Bräuninger now, 2.8 seconds to the good. He's put in a fastest lap of 2:16.848, so making a grab for those much needed fastest lap points to try and keep his lead over Dominic Ladler. Obviously on track he's also currently leading Dominic Ladler. He was dropped back a little bit from Enrico Bräuninger, it seems. If I swap to them, you'll see it's now up to 1.8 seconds. Enrico also putting in a fairly quick last lap with a 2:17.8. Dominic Ladler's last lap a 2:17.74. So not a big difference between the pace of those two. It's going to be all down to little details of corners as they try to maintain or beat each other, maintain position or overtake. Meanwhile, Ali's are here just creeping that gap a little bit wider. Every single sector, he's putting in some pretty quick times here. His last lap around being a 1:17.6. Must have had a little off track because that is not a new fastest lap. Enrico Broidinger setting his fastest lap of the day, or 1:17.5. And Dominic Ladler having a bit of a less good lap, shall we say, that time round, doing a 2:18.2. And some side-by-side action here between Gerardo Brescia and Millop, neither of which has got a particularly clean looking M2 here. But Brescia using that superior cooling from his bumper modification, it's a good advantage, and just squeezing past Millop there. Taking a bit of a defensive line down the start-finish straight, making sure that Millop can't cover off. Making sure that Millop can't take the best line through. Failing miserably, he must have lost a little bit of top speed with all the damage. So Millop making it back on the straight and giving Gerardo Brescia the chance to do it all over again. Overtakes the fun part of sim racing though, so it's a win-win situation, surely. You can see Millop here got a pretty beat up looking M2. As I was saying, Gerardo Brescia now dropped back 9 seconds, so he must have had a bit of a problem there. Maybe ran a little bit wide, had a bit of a greeting with a wall, increasing the damage to his already pretty tortured M2. As Millop starts to close up on Hans Wurstenator. Millop, his fastest lap is quite a bit quicker than Hans's, so I wouldn't expect him to take too long to close up that gap. And speaking of closed up gaps, Dominic Ladler, 0.9 seconds now behind Enrico Broidinger. He must have had a flying couple of corners. As I was watching their time pretty closely, and that seemed to have closed up pretty rapidly in the last couple of sectors of the track. You can see that Aliza here now 5 seconds to the good at the front of the track. Still lapping in the very low 17s, very high 16s, so he's not relenting, and he's showing a bit of dominance here today with some really consistent lap times, and that fantastic overtaking move he did on Enrico earlier on. Dominic just closing the gap a little bit more. Setting a pretty quick sector 1 time, so he's on it right now. He's wanting to make a move. But Ladler and Broidinger raced against each other a lot of times. There's a lot of respect between these guys, so he's not going to make any too rash moves as he comes into the start and the last hairpin of the track. I can do words. Gerardo Brescia deciding that his car's just too beat up and he's gone into the box for some repairs. which is not going to do his position that well, but always worth finishing. You still get some points in this championship. Dominic Ladler in a pretty good position here if he can get the overspeed. Enrico Bräuninger taking a fairly defensive line, not really committing to the full racing line. Dominic Ladler squeezing it down the inside. Enrico on the inside through the next corner, but that will leave Dominic Ladler inside again, still with some overlap. As they come into the next fast section, which is two left-handers, which will give Dominic the advantage. You can see him getting the move done after a few corners there. But Enrico not giving up just yet and trying to squeeze his way alongside, not quite making it. Enrico doing a bit of light flashing there. Maybe not too happy with something that just happened. But he seems okay with sitting behind Dominic and seeing if he can get a bit of extra speed out of it. They've got a long gap behind them. Michael G 32 seconds behind. So they don't really have to worry about that. And Alizar here clearing off into the distance now with just over 6 seconds, which is a long way to make up with 10 minutes of racing. So I don't know if Enrico will be particularly worried about making some moves on Dominic Ladler here and trying to regain second place. Jarno Brescia unfortunately deciding his replayers were just too long and he's called it a day. He's DNF'd. Still 13 cars running here today. You can see there's some fairly big gaps on the map in between the drivers as Ladler and Bräuninger start to catch up with some back markers, which could give Enrico a bit of an opportunity here if he's pretty close behind. Looks like he's making a lunge into the last hairpin. Not the last hairpin, one of the many S-bends. But not quite able to make it work. But if he can keep right up behind Dominic Ladler, then there might be some opportunities coming if he's willing to take them, as the lap traffic starts to probably get in the way a little bit, or at least disrupt Dominic's flow a little. It's always a little bit distracting having a lapped car ahead of you. You're never quite sure what they're going to do. Enrico running very wide, Dominic giving him all of the lights to let him know that some of the faster drivers are coming through. And that's car number 13, Marcel Volbrach, staying well out the way there. Wide on the corner at the furthest, let's say, west end of the track, as the track map is showing it. So both Dominic and Enrico getting through there pretty clean. No opportunities quite yet for Enrico Bräuninger. Still within half a second, so he's getting a fair amount of slipstream from that situation. Let's just pop back to Millop and his much battered M2 as he takes on Hans Wurstenator. Ranislav Bjunkovic not far behind, so he's not going to want to be messing around too long before he gets an overtake done here. But Hans apparently making it pretty difficult for him to get past. These two have swapped places a couple of times over the last few laps. Hans taking a fairly defensive line until the end of the straight there and sweeping out to take the left-hand corner. Millop able to take a pretty nice line through there. He's carrying quite a decent amount of speed. You can see the gap closing up a little bit. Coming up to a fairly heavy braking zone. Not able to make any real headway from it though. And still stuck behind. And doing a good job of putting his car where it needs to be. Millop getting alongside on the straight though. The next corner I believe is going to be a right-hander. Left-hander. But Millop getting in front and able to make the brake for it fairly successfully. A little bit wide. And that's put Radoslav Pionkovic within a second, so he's going to be getting a fair bit of draft from the cars ahead as those two fight together. Hans Wurstenator making a lunge down the inside, running very wide on exit though. It was a fair attempt at an overtake, but I'm not sure that was going to come out in any other way. And that has given Radoslav Pionkovic an opportunity. And trying to cut him off as much as possible, braking pretty late. He's got to make sure he doesn't crash into Millop. But that was a fairly clean, if a bit late, overtake there by Hans Wurstenator. And Millop and Radoslav back in the same positions they were in before. Then a couple of seconds gap between them. At the front of the race, if I talk about that for a second, Ali Zahir now got 8 seconds lead on Dominic Ladler. He has been crushing those laps, lap after lap, putting in quick times. Enrico Breuninger dropped back a little bit from Dominic Ladler, but seems to be making a little bit of a comeback. I'm guessing there's a bit of a braking zone where they are right now. Millop again ready to try and make a move. Running wide, trying to cut back in, carry as much speed through the corners as possible. Not able to quite make it happen just yet. Not able to get alongside, so Hans just squeezing him out of that last corner. Of course, this is letting Radoslav catch up again. And a couple of corner exits, dropping Millop back a couple of tenths, but he's making it back on the straights. Pulling out a little bit early there. I don't think he quite had the overspeed. But Millop going super defensive into the left-hand corner, which might give Hans a big advantage on the next straight. Millop going defensive, keeping to the left-hand side as they come up to the start-finish straight. And there's a little bit of overlap, I think. As Millop just has to brake a little bit too much to let Hans through. And that's dropped him back again. He wasn't able to make any kind of progress there. Oh, and somewhere along the lines, as I was too busy watching this fight, Dominic Ladler has been overtaken by Enrico Breuninger. I'm guessing he made a little bit of a mistake somewhere along the track. And that got Enrico past Dominic, making a fairly quick assertion of his own position, keeping alongside again through the first couple of turns, but losing out to Enrico Breuninger as they come up to the double left-hander, I believe. No, This is the double left-hander. I was only a corner off. Both cars running very wide, taking the esports line through there. And getting as much speed as possible as they come up to the long left-hander at the bottom of the circuit. Dominic running a little bit wide. Might have been a little screw of contact, but nothing too serious between these two. And Dominic just tapping the wall there, and that's going to kill his speed for the straight and give Enrico a bit of breathing space. Of course, Ali's out here loving all of this with 1 minute left of the race to go, so not long left, but he'll be happy to see these two fighting in his mirrors, as it gives him even more breathing room on top of his 13 seconds clear at the front of the race. And Dominic thinking about his rapidly running out number of corners he's got to get this move done, as he's got to catch back up to Enrico Bräuninger and then get the move made, which isn't going to be easy because Enrico does know how to drive a car. And although we've said many times before on cast, me and Lee know that Dominic Laddler very good at defending, I think some of the other guys, some of our regulars, have been picking up a few tips from him and looking at how he drives defensively, and none of them are particularly a pushover anymore. Dominic getting a fairly good line through there, flashing his lights, letting Enrico know he's thinking about it, but not able to make a move quite yet. As this will be the last lap of the race. Ali's out here, obviously 13, nearly 14 seconds ahead of him. Dominic Laddler taking the wide, long line around the outside, hoping for a bit of a cutback, but Enrico covered that off pretty nicely, meaning he can't get quite as much speed onto the next straight as he wanted to. Gap closing up pretty quickly though. No opportunities into this set of corners, as we have another long snaking section. Not perfect for overtaking, but Dominic able to get alongside and force Enrico a little bit wide. The next serious corner they'll come to is a left-hander, but then into an immediate right. Enrico cutting off the nose of Dominic Laddler there and maintaining his leading position as they come through the double right-hander. So that leaves Dominic with the only opportunity left being the hairpin at the end of the lap to really make a move, as Ali Zahir crosses the line pretty dominant here today, nearly 15 seconds lead at the end of the race. That's going to keep his position well and truly at the top of the championship, as Dominic Laddler, Enrico Bräuninger side by side, drag race to the finish. Dominic conceding that he's not going to win that. Enrico second. Dominic Laddler second. I'm being dumb. Enrico Bräuninger coming in third. Pete Kozluk trying to hold off Julian Sacco, who's made a valiant fight back to position there. But not able to really make anything from it as they come through the final hairpin. And although the gap's closing, and it is a long way to the start-finish line, I think that Kozluk will have this one. Just behind them, Emil for GST crossing the line. And a little bit of further back, another spare parts bin of an M2 driven by Piotr Zadybal, taking 7th place. The battle we saw earlier on still being led by Hans Wurstenator, Radoslav Pionkovic trying to see if he can make something from it. Milop unfortunately dropping back. That's Radoslav seems to be fairly alongside there. That was a bit of a weird kick from Hans Wurstenator. Not liking that. But Radoslav having the front line, the straight line speed maybe to make it count, and squeezing his way past. And that seems to be the end of the race. So I'm afraid I haven't got any up-to-date standings to show you, because that's Lino's job and I don't understand how he does it. So I'll just read through the finishing standings of today's race, which was Ali Zahir in first, Dominic Ladler second, Enrico Bräuninger in third, followed by P. Kozluk, Julian Sikor, Emil, Piotr Zadybal, Radoslav Pionkovic, Hans Wurstenator, Milop, Marcel Volbrak and Kokon Anthonin, I believe, finishing in 12th, which was the last finishing place driver of the race. Yeah, I can't tell you the overall standings and how that's affected them, because that's far too much maths for me to do while on my own. So with that, I guess I will say that I think the next round, round 7 of the RENNSPORT Road to Launch, will be at Hockenheim next week on Sunday. I don't think we have another cast on Saturday, so that will probably be the next time I see you, maybe with my good friend, the voice of RENNSPORT, Lino. And with that, I will say goodbye.